Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, today we are embarking on a truly mind-bending journey. We're stepping right into the intersection where profound human experiences meet rigorous scientific scrutiny. We're going to explore phenomena that have absolutely captivated humanity for millennia, and we're doing it by looking through the lenses of neuroscience, psychology, sociology, and philosophy.
It really all comes down to this one highly provocative question. Across all borders, cultures, and eras, humans universally report feeling the presence of the paranormal and the divine. But are these encounters actual evidence of a supernatural reality that exists outside of us? Or are they intricate biological illusions generated entirely within the complex wiring of our own brains?
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. 1. Universal mysteries of the mind. 2. Ghosts, infrasound, and social belief. 3. The neuroscience of near-death experiences. 4. Wiring the brain's God spot. And finally, 5. Faith and unanswered philosophical mysteries.
Section 1. Universal Mysteries of the Mind. The Human Search for Meaning. Before we even attempt to validate or debunk these claims, we have to recognize just how insanely common they are. Look at this staggering number. Sociological data shows that over 90% of modern Americans admit to believing in some aspect of the supernatural, the occult, or the paranormal. I mean, are you one of them? Despite living in an age of unprecedented scientific advancement, our belief in the beyond isn't shrinking at all. It's thriving. And that is exactly why we need to understand the roots of these beliefs.
Section 2. Ghosts, infrasound, and social belief. What is hiding in the dark?
We've all heard the stories, right? And maybe you've even felt it yourself, that sudden, inexplicable chill in a dark, old house. Well, the classic paranormal claim blames loitering spirits, but psychologist Rodney Schmaltz points to a surprisingly mundane scientific culprit, infrasound. So these are sound waves below 20 hertz. It literally can't hear them, but they are generated by things like old pipes and noisy boilers. Studies show that when your body is hit by infrasound, your stress hormones, your cortisol, actually spike. You feel irritated, sad, and deeply uneasy. So if you already believe in ghosts, your brain easily misinterprets that sudden, very real biological discomfort as a paranormal presence.
But, biology is really only half the story. The rest is pure sociology. Take folklore. It often uses ghost stories to process societal anxieties, like a haunted house symbolizing an American dream gone wrong. Then we have social impact theory. Basically, if you're in a dark basement and your friend suddenly gasps and suggests a ghost is there, you are psychologically primed to perceive it too. Finally, sociologists point to idiocultures. Think of these as echo chambers, shared group behaviors where believers interact, validate each other's spooky experiences, and create a self-confirming loop of evidence.
Section 3. The neuroscience of near-death, inside the agonal brain.
Let's shift gears from external hauntings to profound internal visions. Historically, attempting to explain near-death experiences, or NDEs, has been an immense challenge. As you can see, academic theories have been all over the map. They range from psychological theories of acute dissociation to evolutionary survival mechanisms, all the way to controversial dualistic theories which argue the soul actually detaches from the physical body. It was a completely fragmented debate, until recently. Recently, a unified framework emerged from the medical community. It's called the Neptune model. This model proposes that an NDE is actually a massive, ancient survival response. Here's how it works. When the body faces a severe crisis, like cardiac arrest, blood flow absolutely plummets. Oxygen is depleted, CO2 builds up, which triggers intense cerebral acidosis. Essentially, the brain realizes it is dying, and it sets off an incredible last-ditch chain reaction of neuronal excitability just to help the organism cope.
And that chain reaction results in a staggering neurochemical cocktail that generates these rich visions. Get this, in studies of asphyxiated rats, scientists observed a massive surge in serotonin. We're talking up to 200 times the baseline. In humans, this intense serotonin spike mediates calming effects and those vivid visual hallucinations. Meanwhile, endorphins flood the system to provide deep peace and pain relief. Dopamine kicks in to create a profound feeling of hyperreality, making the vision feel more real than real. And glutamate triggers cognitive dissociation, making you feel entirely separated from your physical body. It's a literal biological symphony of survival.
Section 4. Wiring the brain's God spot, the divine circuitry. But what about the healthy, living brain? Well, neuroscientists studying neurotheology have found that there isn't just one single God spot, but an entire interconnected network that lights up during prayer and meditation. First, the temporal lobes activate, evoking a sensed, mysterious presence. Next, activity in the parietal cortex actually decreases, since this is the area that normally defines the physical boundary between your body and the outside world. Quieting it down makes you feel like you are physically merging with the universe. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex, the seat of our logical judgment, quiets down to allow for total surrender and awe. Finally, your reward circuits release dopamine, creating intense spiritual euphoria.
This circuitry is so predictable that back in the 1980s, neuroscientist Michael Persinger invented the God helmet. He literally attempted to artificially summon the divine by gently stimulating the temporal lobes with electromagnetic fields. But while some subjects did report profound spiritual visions, later replications were highly mixed. Scientists quickly realized a crucial caveat here. Human expectation, suggestion, and deep-seated personal beliefs played an enormous role in whether the helmet actually worked.
But we don't actually need a helmet to change our brain function. Deep spiritual practice alters our very brain waves. Calm prayer boosts alpha waves, while deep meditation brings out theta waves. But the absolute most incredible finding involves gamma waves, the signature of ultimate neural coherence. When scientists measured the brainwaves of Tibetan monks focusing on deep compassion, the monks actually broke the biological speed limit. They intentionally sustained highly coherent gamma waves for long periods of time, which is something scientists previously thought was simply impossible to do at will.
Section 5. Faith and Unanswered Philosophical Mysteries, Beyond the Biological.
So, we've seen the biology, but neuroscience can only really map how we experience the divine. It cannot definitively answer the heavy philosophical questions of why the universe is this way. Many thinkers argue that looking strictly at biology misses the larger picture of intelligent design. Just look at this quote. As physicist Paul Davies noted, the ingenuity of the physical universe is so astonishing that it's difficult to accept it as a mere accident. For theists, the complex order and fine-tuning of the cosmos heavily suggest a super-intellect, a designer who intentionally wired us to seek meaning.
This brings us to a fierce, ongoing philosophical debate. The skeptic philosopher Anthony Flew famously argued that the concept of a loving God is unfalsifiable. He pointed out that when faced with the suffering of innocent children, believers simply say God's love is inscrutable, making the assertion of God impossible to scientifically disprove. In response, though, theists argue that God is a necessary being, the very ground of existence, and therefore cannot be empirically falsified like a lab experiment. Furthermore, they argue that our shared, objective moral outrage over that innocent suffering actually proves the existence of an objective moral lawgiver. And this is deeply tied to the problem of evil. Philosopher William Lane Craig breaks this down into two distinct challenges. First, the logical problem, which claims God and evil absolutely cannot coexist. However, most contemporary philosophers agree this is solvable, as a greater being could theoretically have morally sufficient reasons for permitting evil to exist. The much harder challenge is the probabilistic problem, the idea that the sheer massive amount of suffering makes a loving God highly unlikely. The theist response to this is that as finite beings limited in time and space, we are simply not in a position to comprehend the ultimate cosmic framework in which that suffering might eventually be resolved.
Which leaves us right here, exactly at the boundary of known science and profound mystery. We know our biology creates a breathtaking neurochemical symphony to help us cope with death, and we know our brains have dedicated circuitry to feel the sacred. But what you take away from this explainer is ultimately up to you. If our brains are perfectly wired to experience the divine, does that simply explain God away as a biological illusion? Or is it the ultimate proof that we were intricately designed to connect with Him?